Now, I think many people would agree that the summer season is filled with tons of family traditions, from reunions to cross-country trips to going to amusement parks, but something that's always connected me to the summertime was camping at the lake, and no movie explores the misadventures of family camping trips better than 1988's The Great Outdoors, a fantastic summer comedy that nobody at the time realized was a classic until many years later when it would gain a cult following. So let's dive into this nostalgic comedy and have some fun.
I'm dead! I'm dead! I'm dead! I'm dead! I'm dying! I'm dying! I'm dying!
What's up out there, everybody? I'm Anthony DeJoya, and if this is your first time here, welcome to the Movies Never Say Die channel. It's your one-stop shop for 80s and 90s retro reviews, and today I think we're diving into a classic that featured two of the strongest names in comedy at the time, 1988's The Great Outdoors, starring John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, a fun summer comedy that naturally critics didn't really like at the time, but it was a movie that would blow up on the home video market, and that's where I watched it for the first time. And I've actually gone on to watch this movie countless times over the years. I always enjoy it. I think the blend of situational humor and lighthearted comical dialogue just really have a timeless appeal that can still lure you in all these years later to have some fun with. The on-location shoots create a charming summer at the lake vibe, and the comedic timing between Candy and Aykroyd are a riot. Candy plays it straight, he's relatable and humorous, and Aykroyd is a complete joy as a schmuck whose character flaws provide endless amounts of laughs.
How about the gourmet here? You know what he wanted? Hot dogs.
Okay.
You know what they make those things out of, huh, Chet? You know? Lips and assholes.
Now, the premise here is pretty simple and straightforward. Candy plays Chet Ripley, an everyman who takes his family out to the lake for a week's vacation, but he has no idea that his obnoxious brother-in-law, Roman Craig, and his wife and their kids will be joining them. Ripley just wants to have a quiet week with his family, and Aykroyd's Roman, a consummate showboat, will unknowingly just destroy Chet's peaceful wilderness escape to hilarious results. The Great Outdoors was actually originally titled Big Country and written by John Hughes. Hughes actually intended to direct this movie, but 1988 was a super busy year for him. He wrote the script for this movie, and he was also writing and directing another comedy at that time called She's Having a Baby. So due to all the scheduling conflicts, Hughes would hand over the director duties to Howard Deutsch, who had already directed two of Hughes's prior scripts, in Pretty in Pink in 1986 and Some Kind of Wonderful in 1987, so they were familiar with each other. Now, Hughes always wanted John Candy for the lead, and he actually wrote the character of Roman Craig for Chevy Chase. Chase, however, was already committed to another big country comedy for that same year that was called Funny Farm, so he was out. Hughes was then kind of setting his sights on Bill Murray, only Murray was still on his little hiatus from filmmaking, and he wouldn't return until the end of the year with the Christmas classic Scrooged, so he was out as well. This is when John Candy would step in and suggest his close friend Dan Aykroyd, who he'd already worked with on Spielberg's 1941 and John Landis's The Blues Brothers. Hughes had actually never worked with Aykroyd, so he approved the casting, and Candy and Aykroyd were selected as the comedic duo to carry this film, and I think it was a great choice because the banter and the chemistry between them is really what drives the effective comedy of this plot.
That was quite a surprise. I mean, yeah, you got me. And the whole week you'll be here. Okay.
Filming for The Great Outdoors would actually take place out at Bass Lake, California, which was used to create the fictional setting of Lake Potawatomi, Wisconsin, and production was relatively smooth, lasting only about 3 weeks between late October and early November of '87. The lakeside restaurant used in the movie was actually Ducey's Bar and Grill out in Bass Lake, which sadly did burn to the ground shortly after filming due to a gas fire, but it's since been rebuilt, and you can still go there today and see memorabilia and pictures from this film. It was also reported by the Madera County Film Commission that during production, John Candy was actually very easily approachable and friendly to Bass Lake staff and the townspeople, while Aykroyd was reported as also being very nice to the staff, but a little bit distant from the townsfolk. This was also Annette Bening's first film, and it's been said that she was surprisingly demanding and more than a tad difficult to work with, which is ironic because I think of all the people in this cast, she has little to no impact on this movie, and her performance could could be really classed as generic at best. With everything complete, The Great Outdoors would drop into theaters on June 17th of '88, taking the number 3 spot with $6.1 million behind Schwarzenegger's Red Heat and Tom Hanks's Big, which held on to the number 2 spot in its third week. Now, this movie had a modest $24 million budget, and it would pull in $43.4 million worldwide, but it was not considered the financial success that they were hoping for, and it was really skewered pretty hard by critics at the time. But I contend that it's actually much better than perceived at the time. It's a quick-moving storyline set to a summertime lake atmosphere, and I think it just delivers a charming variety to all its humor. You get the boisterous personality of Dan Aykroyd, you get the natural charm of John Candy to cut in with that. So when you gut everything out of this movie, the driving comedic duo of this film is really enough to entertain on their own.
You'll have to excuse my brother-in-law. He gets a couple cocktails into him. He becomes an expert on everything.
I don't need cocktails for that. Was that a shot?
No, that was the truth.
That was a shot.
That was a shot.
However, there is that variety to the humor, which I think does keep the laughs feeling fresh. The dialogue is a blend of cleverness and simple-minded laughs. It's nothing groundbreaking by any means, but the string of comical scenarios and sight gags are when this movie is riding at full speed. Some of them are larger, like Candy water skiing across the lake and wreaking havoc. Other moments are a little bit mid-tier hysterical, like the bat getting inside the cabin and Candy and Aykroyd trying to hunt it. Then you get all the smaller but still effectively laughable moments, from John Candy just telling the bear story to the classic dinner scene where Candy eats the old 90s Sixer. There's also the running gag of the raccoons getting into the trash, the subplot of Roman being a shady businessman trying to get $25K out of Chet, and then there's a touch of summer love as well, with Chet's son Buck romancing a local girl. So if you want to sit back and take a ride with this movie, I think there's more than enough story layers to have a good time with, and it's all set to a charming country backdrop and plenty of nostalgic 80s music. It's fast moving, and before you know it, the final act thunderstorm hits. Roman gets his redemption, and a massive bald-headed bear comes from Chet's past to wreak some havoc. It's climactic, it's ridiculous, but it's also kind of unconditionally silly, and despite the mindless aspects of this movie, The Great Outdoors is an absolute blast, and I'll give it a solid A-. And that concludes my look back at this summertime classic. Candy and Aykroyd are so good in this movie, and each are able to stamp their own style on this wild adventure. The Great Outdoors is just really a lighthearted escape, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Thanks as always for watching this video, guys. I really do appreciate it, and until the next one, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?